So, guys, I want to talk about AEW, and they have a very, very major choice to make tonight. And the choice is that, you have Brodido, which is Brody King and Bandito versus FTR. And the winner of that match is going to face Bobby Lashley and Shelton Benjamin at AEW Forbidden Door. And I really want to see I really want to see Brodido actually face Bobby Lashley and Shelton Benjamin. And there's a lot of reasons why this would actually work. That my first reason is that FTR winning is predictable. And then if you have something where MGF gets angry and screws over Bobby Lashley, that's also very predictable. And then it kind of leads to Bobby Lashley and the Hurt Syndicate versus MJF. And I think that's very predictable as well. Or that feels like there's not a lot of how should I kind of say? There's just like so much story you can do with MJF being involved in the Hurt Syndicate. So if you make it a ruse for MJF to become the AEW champion, I think that there's a better storyline with that of the Hurt Syndicate being the top faction of the company and being like the best faction that AEW has ever done, really. So I do feel that to get to that point, you don't want to have FTR actually beat the Hurt Syndicate or have an opportunity to have MJF screw over the Hurt Syndicate. Because I think the reason, because then it leads me to the second reason, is that AEW possibly wants FTR to be the tag team champions. So then you have Christian Cage and Adam Copeland become the tag team champions. And that's one reason why Brodido should win, because Christian Cage and Adam Copeland should not be the tag team champions. And there's a couple of reasons for that. In TNA wrestling, they're doing the Hardy Boys and Team 3D for the tag team titles at Bound for Glory. So it's almost like, are you going to do a TNA wrestling thing where you take a tag team from the 1990s and early 2000s and you're making them the champions? The other thing about that is, Christian and Adam Copeland are in their 50s. So it's almost like, how believable can they be against other opponents? Like if you have Brody King, who does like a senton cannonball and other things like that, how believable is it for Adam Copeland and Christian Cage to be, thrown around and other things like that? If you're going to have Josh Alexander and Takeshita do like the Blue Thunder Bomb and other moves, how believable is that two 50-year-old men are going to be your tag team champions? If you're going to have Speedball Mike Bailey and Kevin Knight beat Adam Copeland and Christian Cage, it would feel anticlimactic, even though they're both like X Division high flyer types. So I do feel that it would just feel like, where do you go with Christian Cage and Adam Copeland as tag team champions? And are they a good choice, really? And would it feel like, you're just trying to copycat TNA wrestling? And I think the other issue with that as well is, like I've said, there's so many other tag teams that are bigger and formidable. Another issue that I see with this is that Bandito is the MVP of this year. He had a hell of a match with Mascara Dorada. Some people like Dave Meltzer, some people don't, but the match of the year for Dave Meltzer is Takeshita and Bandito, because that got a 6.25, I believe, in the Dave Meltzer star ratings. Whatever you believe about it. Nobody's ever done this before, where they've thrown dollar bills at a professional wrestler. So it really shows you how great that match was. And then also, too, that Bandito, just like Mark Briscoe last year, was doing a lot of stuff in Ring of Honor as the Ring of Honor champion, and then also AEW television, really. And they need to kind of continue this trend of Ring of Honor champions doing double duty, because they kind of have something there, and that needs to be a new subject matter that I'm actually going to write down before I forget in my notes, really. Because, I really think, I really just think that one of the big problems with AEW is I like that they have double champions. Sometimes that works, sometimes that doesn't, but it's realistic because there are people in companies that will be a double champion. I think they do that a little too much with AEW, like double and triple champion. But it's realistic because there are people who hold multiple championships at one time and other things like that. But I like that Brodido could be the ROH and the tag team champion. but he's done a lot of really, really great stuff. He has great matches. He has great chemistry with Brody King, really. And then also, I've not seen him speak any English, so I don't want it to be a situation where it's like, oh well, because he's Mexican, he speaks Spanish. Oh well, he needs to be like a quiet Hispanic person, just like Kalistico, if I'm saying his name right, and Ray Phoenix or somebody else. Really, like, you have to kind of be like, okay, well, these people show that they can go bigger and better, really, and we got to reward that. The other issue is Brody King. That Brody King is one of those people that he's discriminated against. He has muscles. He is a big man, and the way it works in AEW is that if your name's not Samoa Joe or Bobby Lashley, and you got these muscles, you're not used well. So Brody King falls in that category. He's a big man, and he has muscles, so he's not used that well because they don't want to have a big man as their champion. Because the problem is, if you do that, you can't have somebody like Hangman Adam Page or other people, or like Will Ospreay or whatever, because it's gonna be powerhouse versus powerhouse type of thing, really. So so you can kind of do something for Brody King and be like, hey, Brody can be a tag team champion with Bandito, really. You have to kind of say, well, he's worked hard, he does the right thing, he stays out of trouble, he's over with the audience, he does like sentons and other things that big men shouldn't be doing, really. Can you actually, throw him a freaking bone, to quote Dr. Evil? Can you throw him a freaking bone? A little bit. And I also think that it actually rewards unpredictability, because FTR winning is predictable, really. And then also the other issue with it is Brody King has not had opportunity to talk on the microphone, be a character, and do other things like that. So I think that you can develop his character a lot more by becoming a champion. Like, have him talk, have him do other things if you make him the tag team champion. I think also the last thing is comedy, because the problem with FTR is that they have Stokely Hathaway, and you had a comedy match, and I think a lot of people are a little sick of the Young Bucks and Max Caster and Harley Cameron, Tony Storm, FTR. Why do you have to do so much fucking comedy? Is this AEW or is this the 48-hour film project? Why do you need to interject comedy? The same with 40-hour film project films. There's a lot of interjection of comedy. So I really just want to say that wholeheartedly, that to do something different, I really feel that they need to get to a point of just giving the comedy a bit of a rest, because how should I kind of say this? That if you have a serious team like Brodido and an underdog team, because Bandito has like that look of an underdog, and people feel for Brody King because he's not utilized that well, I think that more people would like that over FTR winning just to get to Adam Copeland and Christian Cage. That can be not for a title, really, and they could still be successful, really. I think that's the best way to do it. But I also feel another thing is that I think that as well, really, you give Bobby Lashley and the Hurt Syndicate what they want. You have Brody King, the big powerhouse guy, and a formidable force. Like Bobby Lashley versus Brody King, big man versus big man. That's a good utilization of Bobby Lashley, not FTR, and because Cash is a smaller guy. Dax has some muscles, but he looks like a carny with his beard and bald head, really. But he does not look formidable, just like he does not look formidable just like a Bobby Lashley, who looks like, who is like a black Brock Lesnar. Let's call it. He's like a black Brock Lesnar. So you have big man versus big man, that works. And then you have Bandito, who is the Ring of Honor champion. He has had long endurance matches. It's proven that he can last a while in the ring, really. So I really think that you have a cardio, smaller guy versus Shelton, who's a average size wrestler with cardio. That works with Bandito, and Bandito is the Ring of Honor champion. You've established that he has great long matches. And then you have Brody King, who's the big man versus big man Bobby Lashley. So the elements work so well with this. Or Dax and Cash, they're just, guys who won a lot of titles, and now they do stupid-ass comedy, and more than likely you're going to have MJF screw them over to make it look like that they can't win a match without interference, like from MJF and all that stuff. Really, I think the best story is Brodido and Brody King beating FTR, and then beating the Hurt Syndicate. That tells a better story. Or you have Brody King and FTR and Brody King and Bandito lose to the Hurt Syndicate, and you go from there. Really, you can do like Brody King versus Bandito for the ROH Championship, or you can have MJF cost Bobby Lashley, or you can have them actually get a one up. Brody King and Bandito beat the Hurt Syndicate clearly, or you have MJF come down and cause an accident. So then you think that they're not on the same page. They subvert expectation, or they say, oh, it's a ruse. We're going to get our championships back, but MJF has the main title. That's the main money guy. And then now we're going to get the tag team titles back. They get back from Brody King and Bandito, and then now they're three people holding titles, or they say we're going to be holding trios title or whatever, really. There's so many things that you can kind of do with this, I think you get more creative options from Bandito and Brody King versus the predictable option, which is FTR winning, and then you give the titles to Adam Copeland and Christian Cage. Even though they should be tag team champions, I think that's a little too predictable for now, really. That could happen in the future.